So a little bit about me. My name is Taylor, as Andres mentioned. I run Clint, which is a growth hacking and digital marketing agency. I run Growth Secrets, which is an online masterclass, 49 bucks. I also am building a couple of other things in the background. So basically an aggregator of leads based off of intent data. Happy to talk about that. And yeah, a couple of other fun projects. More specifically, I'm actually working with a couple of small fintech companies, but it's in the crypto space. So like happy to jam out with people on that. It's a crazy world out there. Six-time startup founder, 13 years of marketing experience, originally from Washington, D.C., but I've been in Denmark for the last 6 years. I work with a lot of accelerators, so Antler, Startup Wise Guys. I've done a little bit of work with Talent Guard and Rainmaking just down the way. And yeah, happy to be here. And I'm sure that there's a handful, Hype Sports Innovation. So yeah, I work with a lot of different accelerators and I dig this stuff. So if it seems like I'm crazy passionate, it's because I'm really into this shit and it's like my jam. So yeah. So some of my background here in Denmark, I was either the leader of marketing or the CMO or the head of marketing for these 4 companies, all of which have had exits. So Planday, Geniebelt, Actimo, and Valuer. A big part of this is putting in some of these viral loops, some of the tripwires that allow you to aggregate a ton of users and hopefully convert them through your funnel. So I'm going to be kind of like covering a ton of stuff. So like feel free to ask questions throughout if something isn't quite clear. I've already talked about Clint, but we're a growth hacking agency located just down there. I already mentioned Growth Secrets. And some of the goals of this presentation are to give you some insights into how to see some of these growth models. Now, this is traffic, but your goal obviously is users and revenue. I'm trying to bring as much value as possible. So again, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. Normally, this would be the interactive part where I get to know you guys, but it sounds like you guys already, have stuff going on, which is great. A quick summary of what growth hacking is. I think it's definitely a bullshit jargon buzzword, which is fine. But the way that I define it and the way that I think startups should look at it is growth hacking is doing the most with the least amount of time, money, and energy in order to get the biggest results. I never want to do manual things that are 1 for 1. It's always a 1 for 50, 1 for 1,000. And that's also why we build products that are really scalable. So the thought process is it should be similar within marketing as well. The other side of looking at growth hacking, and this might come from the standpoint of when you start to make hires, is let's say your car breaks down. This is a metaphorical representation. There's 2 mechanics on duty. One mechanic has read every book about fixing automobiles over the last 5 years, but has never actually been under the hood. And the other mechanic on duty has dirt underneath their fingernails, and they fix different components in different types of vehicles, and they could probably fix anything within your car. I want the second person to work with me because that's probably the growth hacker. Maybe they haven't worked on your specific use case or business model, but they can figure out a ton of crazy stuff to fix your problem. So it's a long way to go to say people with MBAs that come in and say they can build your company or do growth for you, I would question it. Marketing is all about systems. So if anybody is trying to kind of learn different ways of getting scalable growth really fast, just think of it as the same way that you learned anything. You have to kind of go into one area to gain some form of competency, and then the doors open up. So for me, it was content. Once I learned kind of one node within marketing, everything started falling into place. So it's a long way to go to say, none of this is all that difficult. It's just getting good at one thing and applying the learnings to everything else. So before we start, there's some really basic things that I think we all could agree on. I hear this phrase throughout the startup scene all the time. It's the Pareto Principle. It's the 80-20 rule. So basically 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. And that is very true across growth marketing. So within 1 or 2 specific channels, you're going to drive about 80% of whatever it is that you're trying to get, whether it's users or revenue. And don't focus on the things that don't scale and obviously don't bring in revenue. So like an example of that is if you know that outbound cold calling only brings in 5% of the revenue, then you should probably be spending only 5% of that versus email marketing, which is bringing you 60%. And that's something that for whatever reason I can't drill into founders. They're like, yeah, but somebody told me I had to do this. And it's like, no, you don't. Do the stuff that actually works and stop wasting time on stuff that doesn't. And that'll be a big part of kind of this theme and presentation. So like marketing funnels are everywhere and everybody talks about them. I'm just briefly going to cover different looks at different marketing funnels. There's literally thousands. So like there's B2B versus B2C. And with B2C, there's less steps. You have awareness. You're basically just blasting people within your kind of rough idea of the target, you're generating some form of interest, and then hopefully you're getting them to convert. With B2B, it's much smaller. It's kind of this spear versus a net type of fishing. And so we're doing awareness, interest, you get them to a consideration phase. Hopefully you're trying to find some form of intent or decision, and then you're getting them to sign a contract at that second stage of evaluation or decision. And the way that I've done this with a lot of whether people, how many people have apps? Do you guys have, does anybody have an app? Yeah.
We're going to have that now.
Okay.
No app yet.
Yeah. So like I ran a mobile app development firm back in DC, and it was one of the most frustrating things because people think once they build the app, like the world, you build it, they will come kind of thing. The world's going to show up. And it's so difficult because there's extra steps. And so like the problem is like, great, yeah, we can drive traffic to get people at least to the landing page to eventually go to the app store. But what we're not considering is then they have to download and install it. And you're losing people every step of the way, which is super frustrating. So once they actually install it, not everybody actually launches the app. After that, they have to actually register more details in the app. Beyond that, they need to complete it, which you have abandon rates all over the place. Then they have to go into the product and probably put in a credit card. Then they have to begin checkout and complete checkout. That is so many additional steps. And let's say we're just doing 10,000 users as kind of like a CPM, cost per 10,000 or cost per 1,000. If we're running that many people, and these are based off of industry standards in terms of conversions from step to step, you might only convert 1.3 people at the end of it. So it means we really have to get a lot of people into the funnel in order to get a lot of users that are actually converting on that final step that investors are so hungry to see that people are actually doing, which is hard. And I think it's super interesting. I did a presentation for MSP's Datto. It's like a big cybersecurity / cloud company. And it's a lot of old school folks. You guys don't have to deal with the archaic old school systems, but the old way of doing it was basically marketing handed stuff off to sales, and sales pounded on doors and did all this work. Now it's like 90% marketing. Like we're really doing everything we can in order to get a frictionless experience to get them to the doorstep of potentially buying. And in most cases, it should be a zero-touch conversion, meaning you don't have to talk to somebody on the phone because it's wildly unscalable to get somebody to try out your product and even convert without ever talking to you. In terms of content, like it's all over the place. There's lots of different types of content per each step. I'm going to move on from that. Ads, once you get a little bit of money in your pocket and you want to actually start driving some serious traffic and you know you can convert people on the landing pages you have, there's different platforms for that. The ones that are bigger generally work best for B2B within their funnel. It's a little different for B2C. If you're doing a sales funnel, there's different metrics that people measure and there's a different look at the funnel there. This is Dave McClure, Pirate Metrics, and everybody within growth hacking talks about that. That shit's like 12 years old, and I don't think it's actually the gospel, and it looks like hot trash. Realistically, what they did was focus in on the really like bottom of the conversion part of the funnel. So they go activation, retention, referral, and revenue. But the whole reason that we're doing any of this, and the whole reason that I focus heavy on content, is I want people to buy my product or service, and a lot of people get it twisted. So some really basic things that we need to have before we do that is a landing page template that looks really well. I never believe in starting from zero, and we often do this thing where it's like, oh, what should go on a landing page? It's like, stop. There are examples out there that totally work, and you just copy those until you have it right. So I've created a checklist. It's based off of Webflow. Does anybody know Webflow? It's a CMS similar to WordPress. But yeah, I'm Taylor Ryan. Cool. So real quick, I'm going to run through this, but there are directions in here as well, which should be helpful. So the first thing that we do is we want a really strong H1, which is how to get the results, what's in it for them, without whatever their pain point or biggest issue is. That tends to be the best converting thing. If you have a video, great. Landing pages with like some type of video convert much better. And again, this is like homepage or landing page kind of stuff. Moving down, a representation of your product, not the entire product. So people are like, oh, I know what that is. I don't care. We're trying to create curiosity. The whole point of this is to get people through what would be a buyer journey or a sales pitch. So by the end, they're like, shit, I got to buy. Like, this is crazy good. This is one part that most people miss consistently, and it's really frustrating to see that. It's trust signals. So it builds credibility, and it makes people go, oh, shoot, I've heard of Forbes. So if you've been written about by news magazines, if you have integrations, if you're currently going to school, put any logo that's recognizable in there, and you're going to have a much easier time having people look at that and go, wow, lots of people are using this. It also creates a little bit of FOMO, fear of missing out, because everybody else is using it. Why aren't you? I do a section here, which I think is kind of fun, which is critiquing the current solutions, which is either the manual way of doing it. So in your situation, it would be trying to go through thousands of lines of a spreadsheet and it's frustrating and doesn't work. Or some of the other solutions that are in the market, which is you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on expensive consultants, whatever. The idea is you want to resonate with the people that are there and be like, I have that problem. And it's like, you sure do. How much is it costing them by not fixing the problem? Which immediately people gravitate towards, does it save me time, save me money, or reduce headaches? And then this one is basically 3 easy steps that all include the benefits. So first step, you get signed up and you immediately see value. Second step is you do the one thing that everybody does in order to convert, and you see value. And the third step is you're just counting money and you're making it rain. And then throughout here, there's a few more little things, but again, more awards, integrations, publisher logos, any testimonials that you have. There's one section that I didn't include in this thing, which is how easy it is to switch from what you have to what your product is. People are always worried about doing something that is different from what they know. And yeah, testimonials, more logos, and the thing that I never see on pages is risk reversal. So no monthly contracts, cancel anytime, no commitment, 0 money down. Those things actually create this sense of, oh wow, I'm not going to be screwed if I hit the go button. So these are little things. You'll get this right after we're done here. So in the essence of time, I'm going to speed through this because I know I'm limited. But
can I ask a question?
Sure.
Hey, I'm Lena. I have a cold a little bit still, so I'm here from my couch.
Cool.
I just have one question because it's really, really relevant because we're doing a landing page right now.
Beauty.
Do you have any thoughts on but we are very early stage, so we don't have we haven't built the app yet at all. So when should you launch this landing page?
Yesterday. So you want to collect the users that are intrigued by your product because those are going to be the first movers and also your cheerleaders. So yeah, collect emails and first names.
But what should the call to action be then?
So get on the waiting list or get on the list for the beta. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. No problem. And yeah, for anybody else that's curious about doing that, there's tons of conversion tools out there, and I'm going to go through some of them. But yeah, it's a great question. So mapping of the user journey, this was one of the startups that I previously worked at before starting my own company. But yeah, basically each box in here represents an action or a click that the user had to do before they became a paid customer. That is way too many steps. Like, we're trying to keep it as minimal as possible, but how absurd. So think about that with your own business model. Every step, like I showed before, is a chance for somebody to be like, fuck this, I'm not interested anymore, I'm over it. So if you ask people too many questions, try to get them to do too many things, you're gonna lose them in the funnel. And there's lots of tools to map it out. My favorite is draw.io. It's a free tool, it's from Google. The other ones are like freemium or slightly more expensive than, I don't know, a cup of coffee a day, but use draw.io. It's great and it works. And it also makes investors think that you have your shit together, which is really nice. So interesting consideration is kind of one of the things that I focus on with content, and I'm going to run through this, but I'm happy to take questions later. So what do people ask before they actually make a buying decision? That's what you should be building content around so that you can convert people on the spot. So with a B2B company, I did that with Plan Day, and it's basically like, here's a really shitty version of our product. It's an Excel file that you could log all the users. It will never do exactly what you want the product to actually do. So I know the people that are downloading this are probably having the same issue that all the same people that become my customers have. So if you have a really rough template, an imperfect solution, then you're going to know that the people who are downloading it are in your buying kind of target market, and they're also in a mode where they're thinking about having somebody or something solve their problem. Another version is Let's Build. It's basically a project management tool. Created a bad version of that in like an hour, and it's awful, but we knew the people actually downloading it wanted it. Another company, Actimo, basically we created a internal communication plan that was 8 pages and god awful, but if you're looking at getting something like this for your company, then you're probably going to want us. With Valuer, it was lists, so lists of startups, and anybody that downloaded a list that didn't really give them enough information was probably in our market as well. So like lots of different ways to look at it. The other side of content could be what happens to all the companies or people that don't fix their problem. And this is kind of a bit more of a doom and gloom thing, but this was a blog post that I created, super long, 50 examples of corporations that failed to innovate. That was driving 70% of the traffic of the website every month for, I think it was like a year and some change. Now it's only 40% of the total website traffic. Moving past that, in order to convert people, and this is great for having that landing page, there's lots of different types of conversions. There's book a demo, free trial. Book a demo is the strongest one you can possibly get because somebody's like, sell me. Get me on the phone and sell me. Show me how good your stuff is. Let's dance. Whereas free trial is like, I'm loose, I'm kind of open. Downloading these things, subscribing to like a blog or something is kind of weak. And there's tons of different tools. I use Convertful a lot for a lot of these exit pop-ups, but Hello Bar is great. There's tons of them. I'm not going to go through all of them. We've all seen these, and any blog post should have multiple chances to convert, even though you're putting out value and content. Exit pop-ups do really well, and I've never understood why, because you're signing up for spam. This is one of my favorites. Not ready to sign up today? Enter your email. We'll send you a surprise. And it's like, what the fuck is that? Like, you didn't even try, but I guarantee you that thing converts, which is pretty cool. Behavior tracking is one of the things that I think most SaaS companies and software companies in general, and probably within fintech, don't do well. Amplitude is one of my favorite tools. It's free up to 10 million data points. But the idea is I want to send behavior-based emails that are based on what somebody has done previous to actually converting and once they get into the platform to know, hey, this user hasn't actually logged back in 3 or 4 days. And if I don't get them back in and create this habit of using my platform, I'm going to lose them. So the idea is that you can actually put people into really segmented areas in order to create these flows for super active users, kind of active users, and people that have no chance, but whatever. And I'd love to talk about that stuff at length, but yeah, I'm going to move on. This is more of like a product-led approach to these viral loops, but it's one of the things that people miss before actually knowing how users behave. So I figure out using either Amplitude, Mixpanel, some of the other Firebase, some of these other tools, what is the one thing that all paying users do in common? What's that one thing that everybody does first once they get into my platform? Because then I'll know I have to get everybody else who signs up to do this one thing. So for Plan Day, it was inviting another employee. So as soon as they invited another employee, I saw the conversion rates of going from a trialist into a customer spike by 70%. If it's Let's Build, I found that when they imported existing projects, and maybe for your piece, it could be importing an existing spreadsheet of data. That spiked 60% of the people that actually converted into paying customers. And Actimo was kind of this interesting one. They actually had to try the stuff. So maybe for your platform, it could be one of those things where they have to put in the details of their schedule. Who knows? Or what they're looking at in terms of investment, or what their investment goals are. It's different for every platform, and there's lots of different use cases, and everybody's company, B2C, B2B, business model, price points, it's all different. Last thing that I'll try to cover really quickly is referral marketing. I love referral marketing. I think it works really well. I've set up a ton of different referral, affiliate, value-added reseller campaigns. They all work reasonably well, and it's something that should be added in the earliest points within your product. Viral Loops is a great little startup, and yeah, they often have lifetime deals that are either on AppSumo or Dealify, and I think there's probably one every 3 months. So if people are looking for a referral software solution, keep an eye out on AppSumo or Dealify or DealMango, and you'll find one. And so you don't have to pay a monthly fee. ShareASale is probably my other favorite affiliate. Does anybody have experience with running affiliate campaigns? I think they're awesome. Like literally you only pay for the leads that you get that convert into customers. And granted, you're going to pay 20% or 30% over the next year or 2 years of that particular customer. But you wouldn't have found them any other way if they didn't come through the ShareASale unique link that is trackable to the individual affiliate that's driving traffic to you. It's a baller way to do things. I think it works really well. Almost all of these have some form of unique links. Otherwise, you can use UTM, but it's kind of weak. I can go into that stuff later, but I think it's a great way to really boost things once you have that MVP. Setting up is super fast with these. With every affiliate product and affiliate landing page I've set up, I always do 3 steps, never more than that, because people are like, oh, too much work, I'm not going to bother, which is absurd. Always reminding people of the rewards, especially with trialists and people that are already using my platform. And I always try to throw in the referral sign up within the onboarding super early. But yeah, when you pay out, I always wait 90 days because if people cancel or do like, what's it called within Stripe, where you try to get a refund and you, I don't know, basically you can say, oh, I never meant to make that charge, and you end up getting through all this trouble just to have somebody basically get the referral deal and get their money back, which is frustrating. Two-sided rewards work best. I think we all know Airbnb and Uber. It's quite easy. So like the statistic here is 92% of consumers trust referrals from people they know versus just anybody else. So it's an easy way to kind of boost these things up. Wrapping up, I realize like I don't have a ton of time. I normally do these for like an hour to like 4 hours. So I hope that was like at least starting to kind of get some neurons firing. And if there's more to cover individually, I'm all about it. But yeah, I've already talked about who I am and all that good stuff. So that's it.
Wow, thank you so much, Taylor. Super interesting stuff.
Thanks.
And, digesting what Taylor has just shared and